Three, we're live. Greg is here. Let me put him in. Good night, Greg. Uh,
Good night, good evening to you guys.
Good night. Good
Tonight,
evening,
sir.
Greg. Good evening.
Introduce yourself one time, then, Greg, and then I was just about to introduce the program, but since you were on and we hadn't spoken with you, go
Yes,
ahead and
sir.
introduce.
Good evening to the people at home and abroad. My name is Mr. Gregory Brackett, and I'm pleased to be a part of this virtual platform as we bring you the 28th edition of Belizean's Affair. Sitting virtually with me this evening is my co-host, Mr. Leonard Brackett, and Mr. Roody. With that said, I will turn it over to Mr. Leonard Brackett. Thank you, and I hope you will gain some education from this program.
Thank you very much, Greg, for being here with us on tonight's special edition program. Uh, the reason for this particular program is that we don't normally have programs on Sundays. We only have them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we happen to had a need for this particular program tonight because we have some issues that needs to be discussed and put out there that is critical to our country and very timely. My name is Leonard Brackett. Greg introduced the program just now. It's the Belizean Affairs show number 28 for Sunday, 20th of August, 2023. And I'll just turn it over to Mr. Wade for his introduction, a reading from the Bible, and a prayer for us to continue.
Pleasant good evening to our viewers and listeners both at home and abroad. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys for yet another informative session. And
My
hope
lights.
that the listening public will take away some good of our program. And as always, we always start with a word. I will continue on Proverbs 1 to 10, short verses. Says, whoever loves, Proverbs 12, 1 to 10. Says, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of evil device he condemns. No one is established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will never be moved. An excellent wife, an excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness to his bones. The thought of the righteous are just, the counsel of the wicked are deceitful. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright delivers them. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. A man will commend according to his good sense, but one of twisted mind is despised. Better to be lowly and have a servant than to play the great man and lack bread. Whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. That's my reading for this evening. And I'm going to give a prayer for our 28th edition of Belizean Affair. Lord God Almighty, we come to you this evening here through this medium once again. Please bless this 28th edition of Belizean Affairs and bless us. Give us the wisdom, the understanding, the courage, and the strength to do what we do and to say everything from the heart, and everything is for the poor and less fortunate, the people of this nation, those who cannot speak out, those who do not have a voice. Lord God, continue to give us that strength and that courage to do what we do.
Amen.
I ask for these in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you very much, Mr.
Go
Wade,
ahead,
for
Leonard.
yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for such a graceful prayer and supplication on our behalf to ask the Lord to please guide us as we indulge ourselves in these type of undertakings. They're not easy, and we're hoping that we can do it as wholesomely as possible. But in the instance of tonight, for example, we're attempting to correct some errors, and therefore we might seem to be disparaging and or maybe alluding to other people's credibility or wrongdoing, when in fact it may not be because they're doing wrong. I mean, because they're intending to do wrong. It may be also because they're just, for whatever reason, unable to square the pieces together. Now, some people, by virtue of their profession or capabilities or experience, you would believe should be in a position to be able to do that. But sometimes the best of us fall on our faces, you know. So while that's a reality, we still can't shug ourselves or remove ourselves from having to do the correction where it's necessary and valid, especially when we're talking about public education or educating the public in a public education campaign relating to our constitutional rights. So tonight I come to this particular program, like I said, to hopefully contribute positively. So I hope that whatever I have to say may be looked upon in a positive way rather than in a negative way, even though some of it might be negative, as I said. At the end of the day, the job must be done, and who else to do it but us, if we are given the privilege and the opportunity and the knowledge and to be able to do so, rather than just stand on the side and watch the whole walls of the Roman Empire fall apart. Belize is our little Roman Empire, and we don't want it falling apart. So I've heard people say in the past, when good people stand on the side and do nothing is when things happen that doesn't necessarily have to happen. And it's all because of the negligence of the people who stand on the side and not wanting to contribute to the betterment of the situation, even though they have the capacity and the ability to do so. They don't have the will. I'm definitely sure my other co-hosts, Mr. Rudy Wade and Mr. Gregory Brackett, are of the same mindset as myself. At least have proven that we have proven that in the past, and hopefully we can continue to prove that in the present and the future.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard Brackett. With that said, the question at this time for the 28th edition of Belizean Affair is: does the people of Belize living at home and abroad has the fundamental rights to vote that is given to them under Section 1 of the preamble in section E. Again, the question becomes, does the people of Belize have a fundamental right, a given right through your birth to vote in any election as is prescribed in section 1 of the preamble, section E? With that said, I will turn it back to Mr. Leonard Brackett or Mr. Rudy. Can you say something on that?
Uh,
No, I'll
um,
pass it
um,
to Leonard. Yeah, Leonard. Yeah.
um, I have something that I want to.
You are entitled to rights. Nobody did give it.
I want to play. I want to preface what I was about to say by putting or putting a statement by the person that I'm addressing my concerns to. I'm going to put his statement on record or on our broadcasting so that there can be a context or clarification as to what is it that I'm intimating. So,
It to you. When you put on the Coast Guard uniform, it's a different ball game. You agree to restrain some of your rights. You can't do like me. I could talk anything. You can't talk anything. Yeah, you can't call in from the morning show and say, late last night while we were patrolling, we came across some white snapper in the vicinity of Boca del Rio. And the amount that they took to the base is not the same amount that was found.
It is not often that the men and women of Belize's security forces are engaged in public discourse and debates. But today, members of the People's Constitution Commission consulted with the Belize Coast Guard as the commission continues to carry out its mandate. Rear Admiral Elton Bennett, the commandant of the Belize Coast Guard, spoke with News 5.
We discussed the need for them to be here, to be present, and to have as much of the Coast Guard personnel here present. So we can have a very good discussion. Traditionally, the military does not get involved with the routine politics of the day. But this is a constitution. This matters for us. And our responsibility in safeguarding that constitution is very important. We have a very crucial role to play in ensuring that the constitution works. Maintaining Belize as a sovereign country, for example, is one of those crucial tasks that is given to the military.
No, I understand. Me a big grown man who's gone to law school long time. Why they don't teach the Constitution in the rise? You don't have a constitutional right to vote. You must have a constitutional right to vote.
Attorney Richard Dickey Bradley was the main presenter today. Bradley
I
sought to break down his
will
lecture in
stop that
simple terms.
broadcasting at that point because that is in effect, or in essence, the point of contention. The last statement, the honorable gentleman, senior counsel, stipulated, and that is that he was telling the members of the Coast Guard and the public at large who would listen to that particular broadcasting that we, the Belizean people, my words, both at home and abroad, back to his words, do not have a right to vote. I do not know where my venerable learned friend got that particular idea from, why he was willing to expose it. But by him having espoused that idea in a public forum, such as a public education campaign, where he is having some of the military personnel from the Coast Guard, for example, be present in his presentation as part of the educational campaign on behalf of the PCC, or the People's Constitutional Commission, to say to them that Belizeans don't have a right to vote, I would say is a misinformed perspective at the least. And as I said earlier, for whatever the reasons that he decided to add that comment, it would have been better had he not made it, because then I would not have had to be putting myself in the middle of a discussion that he had in public to try and correct the records, because as a vanguard of my country, it is my responsibility to not let things like these slide at such a high level. That is too critical a piece of information for the rest of our country to have the wrong impression or information or knowledge about. Therefore, I took it upon myself to ask that we have this particular broadcast, special edition, to address that particular issue. Somehow or another, I would hope that the people who get an opportunity to hear this broadcast would benefit from proper education on those facts, rather than a misconceived miseducation as stated in that particular case. Because the people of Belize have a right to vote under our present constitution that was given to us at the point of independence in 1981, 21st of September. That right was embedded in our constitution, both in the preamble itself as well as the citations, as well. And I'll quote some of those specifically as I go along. I would say that the Belize Independence Constitution, under the preamble, for example, in paragraph C, E, and F, establishes that the people have a right to vote, and that those people would vote for their representatives under universal adult suffrage. It also says under section 85 and under section 90, subsection 1 and 2, and under section 91 and 92 and 93, it speaks to the franchise of the Belizean people and their right to vote, which is why we have those sections, as well as the Representation of the People's Act, Chapter 9, which stipulates, and it says, shall apply to the franchise. The franchise being referred to there is the ability to vote, the right to vote, and not something that somebody gives you if they feel like, or you can ask for if you want. The only stipulation there that the government have any right to deal with is that they're authorized and empowered to make sure. In fact, I'll take back the way that I was expressing it about authorized and empowered. They are commanded to make sure that every citizen is able to exercise that particular right. And within that command, the legislator do what you call a sleight of hand by writing into those parts of the laws words that stipulate that some Belizeans cannot exercise that franchise or that right, that universal suffrage right, by virtue of the legislator stipulating what conditions they want to put on those individuals before they can exercise that God-given privilege of being born in Belize and being a citizen of Belize. They want to put some Belizeans against other Belizeans to say that the Belizeans who are at home may have a right to vote, but it's not an inalienable right. It's not a constitutional right. It's not a right that the people have, but that they have to ask the government to give them and pass certain threshold before the government can grant them those rights. That's a misfeasance and a malpractice as regards to what the Constitution stipulates and what our preamble commands them to do. Now, I only cited these things here, and I'm going to cite some others, but I want to get into the meat and read the exact words so people can hear. But before I do that, I want to talk about what happens way back before the 10th of September battle, when the people of Belize was gathered together decide whether they would fight or flee when they knew that the Spanish was coming to Belize again, like the Spanish had done on previous occasion. And on one of the previous occasions, had taken some Belizeans to Merida, Yucatan, and subsequently even as far as Cuba. Those who learn and know and understand anything about Belizean history will know that from way back then, some people from Flowers Bank came to Belize to join their votes along with the other people who were voting in Belize to help carry the day to decide to stand and fight. From way back then, Belize have been exercising what you call a democratic process of allowing its people, those who were at that time classified as landed gentries, people who own land, had the right then to vote, whether it was woman or man, because there were women who voted and men who voted. So we were exercising a democracy where the people had the right and exercised that right to vote on their affairs. And long before then, we had the situation where, before Belize became the capital, we had, most students of Belize history will tell you, we had St. George's Key as the capital of Belize. Those people out in St. George's Key, which was the first, well, the second capital, I would say, by my knowledge of history, but that's another point. I don't want to stray into that. When St. George's Key was the capital, the people who used to own properties out there were the people who used to participate in deciding the affairs of, at that time, the budding or fledgling settlement. It was not yet a colony then. It was just a settlement. And way back then, long before 10th of September, those people, or long before even the Flowers Bank people participating in their voting, long before then, the people were participating in voting activities in regards to their affairs on the St. George's Key. But at that time, it was mostly the people of the moneyed people or the landed people. It wasn't just like everybody else. But subsequent to that, when we had, after the Battle of St. George's Key, we had the Barnable Code or laws, which was also based on democratic rights for people to participate in their tongue meetings and decision making as regards to the at that time it was already a colony. Okay, so from way back then we had a democracy going. Democracy and the right and ability to vote did not just happen when we got independence. I stipulated the independence point is because that is the constitution of reference that we're going to be dealing with tonight, and therefore I wanted that to be the main focus. But also in the 50s, we had what was then under the British colonial system or governance. We had what was then allowed was what they called universal suffrage decrees. Those who learn and know history and politics in Belize will remember that. That's when we first had the authority under the colonial system to vote for the members of our House of Representatives. And in 1961, we can recall the history where also, as part of that same exercise of that power to vote or the right to vote, we had the PUP party winning all of the seats in Congress, and Mr. Wilson had to be appointed because there was not a strong enough opposition to win, for him or anyone in the opposition to win a seat against the mighty PUP blue machine of those days. We can also recall that in 1964, we were given what you call then self-government, as compared to what we had before, which was the British colonial government. So those who are following and understand history would recall that in 64, we voted for our own legislator under the self-government laws and decrees. And those votes were based on our rights to elect our own people. That wasn't done by virtue of somebody decide, okay, well, Tom, Dickie, and Harry and decide to make them vote, and Mary and Paul and whoever is not will not have the opportunity to vote. Thereafter, we also had independence in 1981, which is where I started out my comments earlier tonight, and which is where I want to target in the Constitution that we had in 1981 under our independence decree stipulates. Let me read it though. I want to be specific. Okay, so just bear with me a second. Let me turn. Okay, and I'm going to read from the preamble, paragraph C, a portion of it, and I'm going to read a portion of paragraph E and a portion of paragraph F to show you that in the very same independence constitution, our rights was mentioned and established. We, the people of Belize, believe that the will of the people shall form the basis of government in a democratic society in which the government is freely elected. How? Freely elected. They don't appoint themselves. We, the people, are the ones who have the power and the right to decide who we elect to become our government. So when people come to you and they tell you shenanigans that you don't have a right to vote, pretend like you never hear them, or stick a finger in your ears, because you don't need to hear stuff like that, right? It's misguided and it's misleading. And a lot of people hearing that stuff that don't know better will take it as a Bible and run with it. I'll read on. A democratic society in which the government is freely elected by universal adult suffrage. I hope those few words ring a bell and it's clear in the mind of most people. Because what universal adult suffrage means is that you, the people of the country, have the right to vote. You follow the procedures that the government is empowered to set aside for you in order for you to be able to vote. But those procedures should not take away your inalienable right, your constitutional right, your God-given right. Every Belizean, under the Constitution and the laws of the Constitution, are equal. And you have the same rights. The legislature can't divide the people and say, well, you could only have certain right to vote and the other one cannot vote and all that kind of nonsense. Any law that is made is applicable to everybody equally. So long as you're a citizen of the country, you're empowered and entitled to those rules, regulations, and laws. And any Congress or any legislator that tries to derogate your rights or tell you that you don't have the right to vote for them to become legislators is talking off the top of their head. I'll continue reading on. Under universal adult suffrage, and in which all persons may, to the extent of their capacity, play some part in the institutions of national life, and thus develop and maintain the due respect for lawfully constituted authority. I'll skip D and I'll read E. And the reason why is because of time. time constraints, and also the relevance of the difference between D and E. E, the people also require policies of state which protect and safeguard the unity, freedom, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Belize, which eliminates economic and social privileges and disparity among the citizens of Belize, whether by race, ethnicity, color, creed, disability, or sex, and which ensures gender equality, which protect the rights of the individual to life, liberty, basic education, basic health, and the right to vote in elections. I'm sure my learned friend and colleague, whom I hope, because I'm having to point this thing out, I don't end up losing as a dear friend, Mr. Tiki Bradley, would read these things that I'm reading to you that you're hearing me read right now. Because as a lawyer and one of our prominent lawyers in the country, I'm sure as a constitutionalist himself, if he were to be reminded of these words, he would agree with what I'm saying, and hopefully he would change what he's teaching or advocating and teach what is adequate or appropriate to the people that he is entrusted to teach as part of the education campaign. I'll read that part again, which ensures gender equality, which protects the rights of the individual to life, liberty, basic education, basic health, the right to vote in elections, the right to work, and the pursuit of happiness, which protects the identity, dignity, and social and cultural values of Belizeans, including Belize indigenous people, which preserves the right of the individual to the ownership of private property and the right to operate private businesses, such as what my cousin has intimated before when he said that the Serrano have a right, the Serrano Bus Company have a right to sue the government for dispossessing them of their right to work. That's what the Constitution is talking about. So if they were to take that matter to court, they would win the case. Simple as that. Which prohibit the exploitation of man or by the state, which ensures a just system of social security and welfare, which protects the environment, which promotes international peace, security, and cooperation among nations, the establishment of a just and equitable international economic and social order in the world, with respect for international law and treaty obligations in the dealing among nations. I'll go on to read F. And also, we, the people of Belize, desire that their society shall reflect and enjoy the above mentioned principles, beliefs, and needs, that their constitution should therefore enshrine and make provisions for ensuring the achievement of the same in Belize. So the preamble stipulates that the Constitution must guarantee your right to vote, as well as all the other things that I read in this particular paragraph, C, F, E, and F. And in the citations of the Constitution, under Part 1, Section 2, Part 1, it stipulates, this Constitution is the supreme law of Belize. And if any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution, that other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. And that's what the courts have ruled on numerous occasions, that many of the laws that the government, regardless of what majority they make those laws with, if those laws are made as unconstitutional and illegal laws, the fact that the Congress makes it doesn't make them lawful, and which is why the High Courts, that the Supreme Court, the appellate court and the regional court of jurisdiction, the Caribbean Court of Justice, have ruled that Part 1, Section 2, subsection 2, which I'm going to read right now, should not be here for me to be able to read it now, because it is ruled already as a settled case, being classified as a stare decisis case, that the matter should have been dealt with by the Congress, because while the judiciary can rule on these matters as being illegal and unconstitutional, the judiciary cannot go and make the laws. That's the purview of the Congress. And therefore, it is for the Congress to follow the directions of the judiciary according to how the Constitution requires them to, and clean up and correct these mess. So I shouldn't have to be reading this section, Part 1, Section 2, subsection 2, but I'm going to read it because it sticks in my craw. Subsection 2. The words other law occurring in the subsection 1 above of this section do not include a law to alter any of the provisions of this Constitution, which is passed by the National Assembly in conformity with Section 69 of the Constitution. That was deliberately done by the Barrow administration as a power grab. This item was never in the Constitution and should never have been put in there. The courts ruled and said just as much. I'm waiting to see when, after having complained about it so many times in the past, under the Barrow administration as well as under the present PUP administration, and they're talking about putting into effect amendment number 11, when this is much more critical and important to the survivability of our democracy, and they're not paying attention to it or dealing with it. Not only did the Barrow administration did this conniving act, but they also went on to say, as stipulated here, if they comply with Section 69, then they are good to go to make just about any law, and the court can't bother with them or strike down their laws. They're illegal and unconstitutional laws. So they went again and tampered with the same Section 69 that they're referring to here by including additional parts such as Section 9, 9, and others modified to enable them to justifiably say they are complying with 69. They are complying with the changes that they made to 69, which then would have given them the power to become a super legislator. In other words, the supremacy of the laws of the country will be vested in the supremacy of the legislator, not in the supremacy of the Constitution and the court. Like I said, it's a power grab. Most people are unaware of it. Some of the very learned lawyers, them, seem to be unaware or be dismissive about it and could care less, apparently. It doesn't affect them as an individual, but it affects our Constitution. It affects our country. It affects our democracy because it lends credence and gave what you call superpower to super majorities to alter and finagle and haul and pull the Constitution and play games with the Constitution while pretending that they're doing so under the law or as as lawmakers, when in fact they're actually bastardizing our Constitution and they're actually acting as scofflaws and are actually committing crimes against the institution of governance of our country, as well as against us, the people. Every time they do something that is contrary to the Constitution of our country, it's like slapping all of us in our face. I want to go on to the next section, section 9. No, I want to go to section 85. Please bear with me. I'll take a couple of seconds to get there. Let me... Section 85. Let's see that one. 58. I need to go a little bit before. I need to read something from Section 85 because it will make the difference in terms of understanding what the Constitution is saying as compared to what our learned people are just getting out there and using as an education campaign by misguiding and misleading people, because that's not appropriate. I need to go. I'm just at 65. I need to go to 85. Okay, I passed it. 98. Okay, I'm almost there, people. Just bear with me, please. 93. Okay, one more. Okay, so I'm at 85 now. Let's see what section of 85 I want to go. 85 1. Okay, I need to go at the beginning. 84. I need to enlarge it so I can see it properly. Yep, 85 1. Okay, I'll turn it sideways. We're there. Please bear with me. It's not a game. It's a serious matter. I'm laughing because I don't want to cry and embarrass myself. But we're dealing with serious, serious, serious matters, people. Subsection 85 of the Belize Constitution. No, that's 5. 1 minute, 1 minute. Yeah, okay, here you go. Reads as follows. 85, section 85, subsection 1 reads, a general election of members of the House of Representatives shall be held at such time within 3 months after every dissolution of the National Assembly as the Governor General, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, shall appoint. Those are commands. Those are not requests. Okay? They're telling them what to do in order to keep them within the bounds and the guides of the constitutional constraints. But sometimes they don't want to do that. So it says a general election of members of the House of Representatives shall be held. Who are the people that participate in that general election? Who are the people that have the power to decide who becomes elected? Is that the people that don't have a right to vote? Then how the voting is done and how the voting is validated or verified or justified when we are being told we don't have a right? So if somebody wants to snub we and not give you one chance to vote, like what Egypt to try to pretend to do with the diaspora, which for all intents and purposes, the rules and laws that they put in place that they're referring to as giving them the authority to stop us from vote are unconstitutional and are actually null and void. It's just a documentation that was put there on the side, just like what they do right now with the 11th Amendment when they play around with it. You know, they're being mischievous. But besides being mischievous, they're actually causing harm to people. Because I know everybody just don't want to vote. Some people want to exercise their franchise, their legitimate right. And the Constitution says that the government is not empowered to derogate those rights. And to try and derogate those rights or imply that you're derogating those rights, or even to assume the posture that some people are disqualified, even though they remain citizens and they're not a committed felon, they have not committed any felon or an adjudged felon, and they want to exercise their right, but you are going to come up with semi-demons on the side to try and pretend that you have the right to stop them or they'll get their right. That is what this teaching, this idea about not having your rights represent. If you don't have a right, then therefore you shouldn't be able to be making those demands or claims on the government to allow you to exercise your rights or your enfranchisement. But most people don't get to read the Constitution and read these things and know what these things are about. So therefore they get bamboozled. We're sitting right here now in the presence of this gentleman or colleague here on this particular show, Mr. Wade, against whom some of the same shenanigans them was used to derogate his right to participate in a general election, in previous general elections as a candidate, when in fact he was duly qualified, but they power played him and stipulated that he was not and should not have been allowed to participate. Because why? They say so. Not because the Constitution says that he's entitled to, but because they, as the supposed people that we entrust our governance to, want to decide that that's the way they want it to be. And even if the Constitution doesn't say that, then they are just going to go ahead and do that anyhow because they're holding the reins of power. But the Constitution is telling us a general election of members of the House of Representatives shall be held. And in the other things that I'm going to read to you here, it's going to tell you that everybody that's a born Belizean, that's carrying a Belizean passport, and even those who don't take out a passport and have the age previously used to be 21, now 18. You could be 18 and not have a passport and still have the right to vote and exercise your franchise. In fact, there's a lot of Belizean people right now that exercise their franchise to vote that don't hold a passport. Hello? So let me proceed with the next point. Section 90. Let me go to Section 90. We just had a case that the government lost on Section 90. All again because, like I just said, they believe that they have this almighty power that we grant them, that they can turn around and use against us, abuse us with it, beat us over the head with it, and there's nothing we as the public or the people can do to have them reject our rights. Well, the government was sued, and the court ruled that the government was besides their records. Basically, they are totally out of order, and they had to comply with the requirements of the Constitution. Section 90. Just a second. 90. Reads as follows. Section 91, because it has various sections and subsections, quite a bit, right? But I'm just going to read this portion here. Section 90, subsection 1. The Elections and Boundaries Commission shall, not may, or could, or would, or if they want to, shall, after considering the electoral distribution of the population throughout Belize. He didn't say only the PUP, or he didn't say only the UDP, or he never exempted or left out the Belizeans at home and just said, well, only the people abroad can vote. No, he didn't say only the people at home could vote, but not the Belizeans abroad. He didn't make any such mention because the Constitution cannot discriminate between Belizeans. Neither should the government be indulging themselves in that kind of shenanigans. Why? Because there's more Belizeans abroad than are at home, and they want the migrants to come in who are going to be grateful to them for letting them in and having them to gain the benefits and whatever else that they can gain in the country, and therefore be indebted to them, the politicians who help them come in, who pay for some of the transportation, pay for their food, pay for their housing, give them a house and lot in some instances, give them farmland in some instances, and then the people become successful, and the Belizean Creoles and other Belizeans who are at home are not given all those benefits or privileges, so therefore they become marginalized. And that is what the politicians are doing to us with our own power that we vested in them. Then they turn around and tell us craziness, whoa, some of us can't vote. They're dividing and conquer, and at the same time marginalizing us and making us a smaller part of the population that they don't have to depend on afterwards. They use us when they needed us, and when they think they don't need us anymore because the demography of the country has changed to where now they have enough people that are sympathetic to their perspective that they don't need to be bothered with us hollering and clamoring for our justice, for our equal justice. If we open mouth and holler for equal justice, they say, oh, we try intimate that somebody we shouldn't be talking like that because then we discriminate against the other people. We didn't get discriminated on, but because we open our mouth and talk, we shouldn't do that. We should just shut up, sit down, and don't have nothing to say. Just look at what's going on. And if you can't make a living, because all the jobs are being given to other people who come in and bring them brother, sister, cousin, uncle, aunts, and the whole family, and then get the job and give each other jobs and not give us none. All we got to do is sit down home and suck with big thumb. It's a bunch of craziness, and it's happening for too long. And it's time that people figure out what needs to be done to rectify it, because what present parties are doing the same shenanigans. They are playing the same games against each other and with the same kind of coins, while they're getting all rights at home and abroad. Each electoral division shall have as nearly as may be an equal number of persons eligible to vote. Of course, after you meet the requirements for voting, right? Or you vote in a certain constituency. Now, they want to tell me that we have to live in a certain constituency to vote in that constituency, for example. But they don't live in the constituency, or at least not all of them live in the constituency that they represent. They turn the laws on its head for their own convenience. They make laws against us to derogate our rights. Suppose I want to vote for somebody else in a different constituency. I should have that right. I should be able to go and register in that constituency. Because what they do, for example, in some of their constituencies where they have a lot of people on their list, when they always have the bigger majority, they take some of their people before the election date, when they do the re-registration, or they go to the courts and have some of those persons that live in other divisions register in separate divisions to make up the numbers that they're short in the other divisions. And that's the way the game is played by both parties, which is also illegal, by the way. And they know that they're doing it illegally because they made the laws to say that if you don't live in a division, you can't vote in there. But they're moving people, they rent house for people to go live in at the house in a particular division, they pay the rent, they give them food, they look after them, just in order to get enough numbers in our division to win the division. Because, of course, everybody knows that politics in Belize is a divisional affair. It's who gets the most division takes the pie. Let me move on, please. And I want to read a little part here. I read two. I read one, and I didn't read two. Yeah, I just read one. I need to read two. I intended was subsection 2. In fixing the boundaries of electoral divisions, the commission, meaning the Election and Boundaries Commission, it doesn't say, but that's what it meant. And that's what I'm trying to clarify for you, the listeners to whom I'm speaking. The commission shall have regards to the transport and other facilities of the divisions and to its physical features. I will not read fee. I'll just leave that there because it's getting boring now
That's
for most people.
you got 7 more minutes there, Leonard.
Oh man, I'm using up all the time. Okay, I'll just touch 91. Part of 91. I had 91, 92, and 93 that speaks about the franchise. But generally speaking, though, those of you who are under my voice listen to what I'm saying. See where I'm going with this, right? And can see that the Constitution itself, I'm under time constraint right now as I'm being reminded by Mr. Wade, because we only have a 1 hour program today. And the other panelists have not weighed in yet on these matters. So I got to yield the floor. And before I do so, I just wanted to point out that I can't go on with the rest of this. We'll probably do the rest of this on Monday or some other day in order for me to yield the floor and let the other panelists member come in. But the basic point that I'm trying to establish here is that Mr. Bradley made an error in stipulating to those Coast Guard officers to whom he was doing his education campaign that they, and also as an extension, Belizeans don't have a right to vote. And that is incorrect. As per all the things that I've just cited just now and the rest that I could cite on previous programs to come, as I intend to do. So please, Mr. Bradley, and please, Mr. Osha, and please all the rest of you guys who are actually out there helping and doing a good job at trying to be helpful. As a matter of fact, volunteering because they're not getting paid, from what I understand. Please continue your good effort and good intention, but please correct the errors of your ways, or the errors, whether it's an oversight or it was a deliberate thing or not. The bottom line is it needs to be corrected, and people need to be given the correct information. That is that as Belizeans, we are all vested and empowered with the right to vote, which is how we decide who our Congress is going to be, how our government is going to function, and who has the right under our stipulation or authority for them to be able to go to the Governor General after we grant them that privilege to be able to become and constitute our government. I'll turn it over to Greg because we're running out of time, and I know he has some legal points that probably need to be fleshed out, and then we will probably go over that 101, Mr. Wade, and somehow or another we have to give you enough time for you to weigh in. I'll yield the floor and just call this my closing as well.
Let's go to Mr. Wade first because he might have some very important facts that he wants to mention. Go ahead, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Greg, and well said there, Leonard, and well put together in your view, and what you had said. I will not elaborate much on that, but all I like to say on that you had said is that maybe it was an error from our learned gentleman, Mr. Bradley, or whether it's something else. Now, what I'm saying is that, in my view, and of all my years voting, we all have a right to vote, right? So that's what I got to say on that. Whether he didn't explain himself thoroughly in what he wanted to say, I can't say. But you notice that I like to say this real quick, right? You brought up something real that touches me, Leonard, is that I have been disenfranchised because of mere fact that I am a Belizean American, right? And when you have a PUP government and a UDP government that encourage a born Guatemalan, right, to participate in our electoral process, a country does not respect the integrity of Belize, right? These
Which is
people,
contrary to the Constitution, by the way. The Constitution forbids that. Okay. Go ahead,
so
sir.
what is wrong with these people? I say this to say that, what is their intention? What is their mission? Greg, you mentioned something that, you had asked a question once, and I remembered what you said. This government want to push through the ideology of the late George Price, right? He has his mission, he has his ideology, right? You mentioned that, and you asked a question on that way back, right? But anyway, the thing is to show you how these people, man, past and present government, well, only two government, only two party in this country who for some reason afraid of our band Belizean American, especially someone like me who had served my country, right? I did not commit no crime or kill somebody in the US. I did not commit no crime in Guatemala, Central America, or no other part of this country or world, right? I had done nothing but service to my country, give all my youth to this country. And yet, just because I am a Belizean American, cannot participate in the electoral process in terms of representing in the House. Yes, for the listening public out there, yes, I can contest local election, yes, like a city council and a town council, but they disenfranchise me, people like myself, who had done nothing good, bad in this country, than to serve this country. But yet, we are being treated that way. And yet, the audacity of the UDP and the PUP to go to the diaspora, right? all their, their problems. And I'd just like to say this, right, for the listening public out there. The Belizean American abroad suffice this country 80% of the daily living of the Belizean in this country. 80%. Mr. Brisenio, Mr. Politician, if you don't know, I'm telling you. Do the research. And yet you're going to disenfranchise just because you're a Belizean American. And then you're going to honor a Guatemalan. No, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. Period. Right? Now I say this because, it pisses me off to see the ideology of these PUP and UDP representatives, the way they think, the way they bring down banned Belizean who want to do right by this country. Right? I have not stolen one tax dollar from the Belizean coffers, taxpayers. Not 1 cent. I have contributed. But this is what I want to say. And I'll say no more on that. I have a right to, and I will exercise my right. And that's a warning. I'm putting out there. I'm going to exercise my right. You could do whatever you want to do after I have done it, Mr. PUP government, because hopefully it's going to be under your watch, right? I'll say no more. Go ahead, I'm Gregory.
I thank you, Mr. Wade, and I also thank you, my cousin.
You're welcome, sir.
Here we are again, and I will say this as I start. The role of government of Belize, past and present, has not been playing their role. One, they are not protecting their territory as we see. They are not getting with private sector to create jobs, and they are not bringing about peace and harmony in the community. But let me say this, Mr. Wade, to these learned men that is teaching the people at home and abroad about their fundamental rights, who one is saying the Constitution was amended some years ago under Section 2, which is null and void and have never been removed under the Barrow regime, and one who is saying that you don't have the right to vote. I will say to them, how come you are not teaching the people of Belize that people living in the Commonwealth could come to Belize and vote?
Hello? Hello?
Do any Belizean know that?
Hello?
Do any Belizean know that people living in the Commonwealth can come to Belize and vote, but yet they are teaching that you are born Belizean don't have the alienable right to vote.
Greg, can you give me 1 minute? Greg,
yes,
can you just give me one? It's so ironic. It's so ironic, people at home and abroad, right? My Belizean people at this, the UDP and the PUP government, it's okay for them to send a plane ticket for a voter in the US to come and vote for them. Send them a ticket, PUP and UDP to come and vote for them, right? But they are not allowed to participate. The word participate in election. That's the two different. That's the two thing I want to make mention here, right?
One word, fair. One word, fair.
You said it, right? You said it.
Thank you.
As for that, I'll say this. Somebody like me, they would have a hard time because, number one, I'm not a yes man, and I'm not a party man, and I'm not a follow the leader. No, I am for people, right? A nation, not for party. That's why you guys would have a hard time to allow me my privileges to participate. That's one of the reasons, Leonard, you said it. Fair. Go ahead. I just wanted to say that because I makes me feel better.
No, gentlemen, if you do not have the right to vote, why is your right protected by the Referendum Act when the government try to fool around with it within Section 3 to 19? Why do we have a Referendum Act? Because you know what the government is trying to do under the modification of the Constitution. They were trying to ban the Referendum Act as though it don't exist. And that is not true. No, we have these learned men teaching the fundamental right. But guess what? Anybody at home and abroad, I want you to understand it. Me, Mr. Gregory Brackett, is telling you guys, if you do not have the alien right to vote, why are they coming to you, teaching you your fundamental rights? I will tell you why. Because under Section 69 and 68, the present government has a supermajority and can create any substantive law and amend the Constitution, except
Within.
there is one thing that is stopping them: the basic structure doctrine.
As well as the
They
separation of powers.
cannot violate the structure of the Constitution. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just go search fine and you read the Bowen case, you read the telemedia case, and you read the Vales case, and you will see what are being said in these cases. Because now imagine you don't have the right to vote, but yet still he wants to put it
Oh, man.
to a referendum to try to see if the people wants to remain in a democratic country or for the country to become a republic. Now imagine
If we don't have the right for
you
vote, then we're
don't
voting at the referendum then.
exactly.
Well,
No, how ludicrous is that? You don't have the right to vote in general elections, but oh, he's giving you the right now to participate in a referendum because he wants to see if you want to turn Belize from a democratic country to a republic. I say this, people at home and abroad, please read up on your constitution and read up on those cases I just mentioned because you have a constitutional right by law that gives you the right to participate in any elected government. And not only that, the law says they must go to you, the people in the diaspora. That is why they want to hear your opinion. And the people at home, before they can change this country into a republic. So don't believe their misleading agenda. Don't believe them when they're saying, oh, we just want to get your opinion, because that is not true. You have that right to participate in any election. And with that said,
uh,
yes,
could you just give me 1 second of your time, if you don't mind? Because I use up.
I
I have
was
a
about to turn it back to you
no, no,
to
no, no, no. I want to
elaborate.
continue. Whoa. Okay. No, I just wanted to say that I wanted to give the government a message, okay? That they don't seem to be able to have grasped yet or don't think that they should be bothered about. Okay? Just a simple message. Stop wasting their time and the Belizean people time with playing shenanigan games. We are not the same people that we used to be when we were so
Naive,
I
I
don't
would
know.
say.
I grasp the words that
Yeah,
I don't want to say the wrong thing or say it in the
yeah,
wrong way, because people
yeah,
can misconstrue easily when you say something in
yeah,
certain ways. But
yeah.
for all intents and purposes, what I'm trying to get across, let me see if I can say it differently. The government needs to start acting as a legitimate government rather than a bunch of scofflaws, bunch of hoodlums, and a bunch of people who think that because they have material substance enough to meet their own daily needs, that they could just snub and look down on the rest of us and walk over us, trample us, misuse, abuse, and do all manner of evil things towards us because we dared to grant them the powers of governance. Yes, I agree that they feel like they want some people because they pay some people only $50 or $100 for their vote, so they feel like they own those people. But I don't want people vote for them. Look at the majority with which they won the election. Tells them that a lot of people that had good faith towards them wanted them to succeed and to do good for our country. Yet they are be dismissive of those people's good faith and effort and just run along all the way, all the same, and do us. I don't know if I could even call it anything less than evil. It's not because they don't know better, or they can't do better, or that they still can't help themselves while they help we. Then just damn evil. Only evil people think like that and behave like that, the way them guys they behave right now.
You know,
We don't have
my
no problem with
cousin.
wait on the side if you come in could probably do the same thing again. When are we, the people of Belize, going to get some reprieve? I could answer that question. It's not a rhetoric question. When we get the fortitude enough to decide we seriously want to have a change, and then we'll take one and make one change, even if it's just for experimental purposes. And who is to tell? Maybe we might just get lucky that the experiment might turn out to be the change that we always wanted. But because we're not willing to make that change, we are where we are. And the man and keep taking charge of us. Sorry, Greg.
Go ahead,
My
Greg.
cousin, I wanted to say this, right? And I hope the people at home and abroad will understand what I'm about to say. If, by the teaching of the fundamental rights by Mr. Osha and the amending of Section 2 of the Constitution is legit,
Oh, man.
the question then becomes, why are they using third-party platforms at home and abroad to teach the people their fundamental rights if, as per stated by Mr. Bradley and Mr. Osha, you don't have a right to vote? Then their fundamental rights. Why don't the government of Belize just go ahead and use parliamentary vote to achieve his agenda?
They
I
can't.
hope one of
They
them
can't.
out there. Hold on. I hope one of them out there that is teaching the fundamental rights and the PCC would answer that question. Because then, if you are telling us, the Belizean people and abroad, that you don't have a right to vote per se, then that means you have the power to use your parliamentary vote.
Which is
You don't
actually what
need
we want
us
to do.
in a referendum. You don't need us, so why don't you do that? You know why? I will answer it, but I hope they will answer the question because they know that they are at a bar because of the structure of the Constitution.
Right.
And I hope these landmen would tell the public that. That's why I keep saying they want to teach you about your fundamental right, but they don't want to teach you what protect those rights. The basic structure, doctrine, the basic structure of the Constitution in which government cannot trample. He has to come to you and ask you if you want to give up your rights. And the only way that can be done is through a referendum. So make no
But we don't have no right to vote.
mistake.
We don't have no right to vote. So how they can get one referendum done?
That's what I'm saying. If it is untrue that you don't have that right to vote, then why you coming to the people teaching about their fundamental rights? That means you have the power in your super majority. Just go ahead and use parliamentarian vote and see what happens in this democracy. That's all they need to do.
I've said it more than one occasion before. The government cannot, even if they put all the UDP and PUP together, all 31 of them, 100% of the legislature, they cannot make an unconstitutional law and pretend that it's constitutional. Because if the law is unconstitutional, it is unconstitutional. Pretending that it is constitutional doesn't make it constitutional. So if all of them get together and make one law contrary to what the Constitution expects for them to do, they might as well just overthrow the whole damn system and just say, okay, well, then they take over and turn the thing into a republic and just do what they want to do. And if they could survive after they turn it into a republic, then more power to them. But I can guarantee and assure you, the Belizean public, that they don't know what the hell they're trying to get themselves into and get we country into. Because they would not survive maybe a month of Belize independence in a republican format. They will, neither the PUP nor the UDP would probably survive as a government more than a month in office. That
I could see that.
They're
I could see that
totally
happening.
oblivious
Yeah.
about that reality, which is why they're pushing so hard. But part of it too is a game that they're playing, right? They have their own personal economic agendas that they're trying to foster at the public treasury's expense, by the way, which is why they're doing all these port business and all these other shenanigans. That is just the beginning and parts of what they are attempting to do. There's a hell of a lot more crazier stuff going on behind the scene that the public is totally unaware of. And by the time we become aware of that or it dawns on them.
You're so right, Leonard. My brother Gregory, you're so right. I just like to interject this right here.
Wait, Mr. Wade, let me say this before you continue, right?
Go ahead.
This that we are speaking about and the Constitution, you can see what are their intentions. The government at this time is willing to appeal the ruling of the judge who just made a ruling on the case pertaining to the Caneros.
Caneros, yeah.
Why don't they do that out of their own pocket?
That is to tell you how far they want to go and violate the Constitution. It's as though they're saying the judge is wrong to rule in that when the Constitution, which is the law of the land, specify in section 3 through 19, protected by section 20. How crazy is this?
If they were using their own salaries or their own money to finance that venture, they wouldn't undertake it because it's a lost undertaking. They know that in cabinet, they have lawyers in there and smart smart elite lawyers in there that knows enough to know that that's the case. So for the government to pursue that as a true undertaking is to waste more of we believe money out of the treasury, just because they're in a position to be able to do so. They're being gratuitous.
Let me hear you, Mr. Weird.
Yes, I was gonna say, Greg and Leonard, right? This whole thing is coming. You see, do you know the least saying when you say then they show their class already, right? You see what they, like you said, what they do to the Constitution, Greg and Leonard. You see how they violate it. Now you see on these town hall meetings, so-called town hall meeting in terms of their agenda, what they say, or educating the public about their rights, right? And we see where that is not the case. And some of us out here are beginning to see. I don't know why the masses of the Belizeans don't see these people, what they're doing, right? You talk about the questionnaire, Gregory, right? You talk about the answer sheet, and you talk about item number 12. Do you want to take out the governor general and replace it with the president? All right, and they give you a pencil, right?
Members of the panel,
That's just.
We're gonna go. We're gonna try to see if we could make it to another 8 minutes. Okay. Let's see if we can wrap it up in another.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Weird.
Right. You know, we brought all this thing to light, and it doesn't come from space or no, it's coming from right here amongst us on a regular basis. It's happening. What is wrong with our Belizean people? Why don't they march in masses? If they could go up to a shine endorsement in masses, right? If they could take a little measly $20, $30 and a campaign for the PUP and UDP in masses, right? Why can't we? Well, I'm not saying, to overthrow the government. No, I'm not saying that. So don't misinterpret me. Why can't we get together?
To hold them accountable.
To hold them accountable, man, of what they're doing. It's plain as daylight to see that these people have their hidden agenda, and for what? And to profit who? Not the Belizean people, not the nation. Who is it going to profit? These people agenda. And all of them guys are in cahoot. All of them, the UDP crowd and the PUP crowd, they are all in cahoot, right? Mr. Shine think if the UDP wins and Belize become a republic, he is of the opinion that he will be the next president, right? That is his mentality. He's sick, little twisted, right? And this PUP want to be the first party to take this country into a republic and become the first president. You see, it's a secret.
Power,
right?
Power.
What is, like you said, Leonard, if this come to light, they would not stand a month, 2 months sitting on that seat, right? So they better be very, very, very be careful. They're a little sick mind.
I'm laughing, Mr. Weird, but you know why?
Sick mind.
Because the people don't want to suffer and suffer the most, that the least, that the people will least.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But no voice at all.
That's the part that I'm sad about.
That brings me back to ask the question. Because I'm more than shocked about Mr. Bradley and Mr. Osha, who is a past magistrate, who is teaching the fundamental rights to the people. Why are you teaching if you are saying we don't have that right to vote? Then stop teach, man. Let the government just go and use his majority and change the country to a republic, and let's see what happens. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah,
just do it.
I am with you, my brother. I am with you.
Don't even have a referendum. Don't even have a referendum.
The whole of this process that they're undertaking has to end with a referendum. The people must give its blessing, and they can't get that blessing and get that done if they don't have a referendum and they don't have people exercising their inalienable rights and their God-given rights having been born in Belize, not being given citizenship. Of course, the ones that were given citizenships would also be able to participate. Okay, but the bottom line is that as a Belizean, whether it was born citizenship or granted citizenship, you're entitled to exercise your franchise to vote under the universal suffrage decrees and the laws
That
of
is
our land.
correct.
There's nobody that can stop you from voting or should be able to put any rules in place to minimize some people
Well,
being able to vote and others can't.
but cause that has
That's the
changed.
mindset of we people and what we got.
Cause that has changed.
Uh-huh.
According to what the government is doing, when they have third-party platform at home and abroad, and people trying to educate on fundamental rights, right? What they are saying to you, the right you have at this moment, when you take part, is the right of a sovereign citizen. Period. That's
Like
the right that you have. Because
you're
you
right
know
on
what
that,
will
right?
happen, Mr. Wade? When this referendum is held, you know who will get the blame? They will say that the people wanted it. That
Exactly.
is what they will say.
And
All
like,
right?
let me
And they are already misleading the people. They are misleading the people into sovereign citizen when they take the queen head off the currency. No, they came up with names of people who they want to put up there. Look at Mr. Golson. His anniversary came, there was nothing said about the man. Nothing at all said about the man. Then you have in the deputy prime minister, Belize needs a new identity. I don't know what he's speaking about. You know, and previously the PM said he's willing to use parliamentarian votes. Just go ahead and do that. If you think S69 with your supermajority gives you that right, stop teaching the people about fundamental rights because we don't need to hear that. Our fundamental rights is
Guaranteed.
enshrined and
Right.
written in the Constitution
And
from
cannot be altered or
1981 to present, and it cannot
be written out of
be
existence.
written out of existence. So you just go ahead and you try using
like
parliamentary vote.
But the
Go
learned
ahead,
judge
Mr.
told,
Wade.
wait, give me a second. The learned judge told them at the Supreme Court level that S69 subsection 9 is null and void. Take it out of the Constitution. It has no value. But they keep that in there under the false premise that somebody will end up to read it.
To see power. It's power they want.
But they can't get to where they want to go because they're too knuckle-headed. It appears that we don't have the kind of talent that they need to have in order to help them get across that bridge. And then they fight like hell to try to go across.
Well, I thought the Belizean no got talent, but we see the government not have it because they have learned attorneys that can help them. They have a senior counsel and a foreign minister who has been through the court and know these things. He was part of these cases.
Whom the court lambasted and told him himself, I'm calling him Mr. Courtney and Miss Marine, told them that they were off their records for what they were proposing that the court should rule. And as a result, if these guys really want to overthrow the present system, there are legal ways that they can do it, and then there's illegal ways that they can do it.
Formal and informal.
Yeah, they're scared to do it the illegal way because none of them have the fortitude to put themselves on the line to figure out and see what the consequence going to bring because they don't want to be at the end of the dirty stick. So then they try to use the public to get it done for them. And the public cannot do it for them because the public don't even know right now what is it that they're trying to get done. They know what they're trying to get done. But we are trying to tell the public what they're trying to get done.
You know what is happening here before I go to you, Mr. Wade?
Good.
They are doing the same thing Guatemala is doing to Belize at the ICJ. We're going to ICJ, but we don't know what Guatemala wants. It's the same thing the government is doing.
I have to give a link up them because
Yes.
But it's right there. You can see it.
You drop that big mal in the middle of the nail head.
Yes. My
Go ahead,
brothers,
Mr. Wade.
my brothers, you know, we have a very good sense of humor, but you know, this thing is very serious, right? This thing is very serious. That's why we come to the people. That's why we are putting it out there, right? And Gregory, you says that, you know, why these people are taking the taxpayers and the people of this nation through this shenanigan, man. They have a super majority. Why on earth do they just do? Why they not just pass where they want to pass and to hell with it, right? And see where they will survive, right?
Mr. Weird,
You understand what I'm saying? I'll do it. Yes, I agree with all that. I agree with all.
So then
I agree with all that. But remember, these people are
to help them do what they can get done for them one. With all the majority when they got.
We agree with all that. But watch the strong-headedness with these people, man. They prostituting the constitution. They turn it and they take out and they do what they want with it. So why not put it out there, right? Get it over with. More than putting the country through what they're putting the country through. You know? I mean, what is wrong with these people, man? Enough is enough. We are tired. We are tired of this.
If you and Gregory and all the other rest of people like us and myself would disappear off of the face of the earth, these guys would have been able to do what they're trying to get done. But they can't because we're like a stumbling block to them.
Yes.
And they can't dance the way they want to dance it. So they're frustrated.
There must be a way we could jail these people, man.
Jail them?
There must be a way we could jail them.
Mr. Wade, as I said before, right? Mr. Wade, as I said before.
Go ahead, Greg.
While it might be true, maybe 97 to 98% of the Belizean do not read the Constitution. I can say this to you, not on my watch. I would love to have any one of them, including Mr. Bradley, sit in front of me, or let's have a Constitution talk, me and my cousin, with any one of them, and see who is more educated enough to teach a Constitution.
It's not even a matter of more educated, because it's a matter of who is doing the education or the correct education. But we've been doing it for months now, long before the committee come into being, we've been doing the education.
Not only that, I have been pointing out all along what they want to do. I've been pointing it out. Well, but again, I will say this. Right?
Greg, hold that good thought there. It could be beneficial to the general public if these matters are discussed in public so that the public can derive the benefit of hearing both sides, rather than just being educated or miseducated under a premise of being educated. If people want to have the opportunity to have this matter aired out and debated, some of them guys would not be saying what they're saying because they wouldn't want to have themselves embarrassed in the first place. So more likely than not, people will be getting the straight arrow, the truth out of them.
But again, cause they're still violating the Constitution.
They don't care.
You heard the Prime Minister said there's a secrecy act in the cabinet. Mr. Man, you are violating the Freedom of Information Act.
What
That
is
is
wrong
in
with that guy?
the Constitution.
They have no
But this
respect for
is
the
what I want to
Constitution.
say on the real, right?
They only swear and accepted the oath that they accepted in order to go through the motions to get the power. They were never interested in the Constitution
But
or the correct one.
again,
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I want them to hear this. And I want them to answer it. Mr. PM, if you're teaching the people of this country at home and abroad through third parties, in town halls, etc., their fundamental right. And these educators are saying that we does not have the God-given rights to vote. Then, sir, please stop it. I beg you, just stop it and use your parliamentary vote, like you said, and change Belize to a republic, and let's see what happens.
Greg,
That's
I'm
all
with
I'm
you.
asking.
I'm
Greg,
with
Just
you.
stop the teaching. Use your super majority, and let's see what happens.
Go
these
for
That's
it.
what
guys,
I have to say.
these
We
guys
calling
are
you out, Mr. Briseño. We calling you
these,
out tonight.
these guys are pretending to be educating the people because they are very know that 98% of the people don't know anything about the Constitution. So when they tell the people are supposed to accept as Bible as being truth from the Constitution. But based on where I just bring out tonight, to counter that one particular point alone about us, the public, don't having any constitutional rights to vote, is a farce on its face and a travesty. This matter is on record. They could go back and review it themselves at their own convenience and check the various citations that I did. And maybe when the next show, if we get a chance to bring up the rest of the material, they could also go back and do the same thing. Because every show that we do, especially the one that deal with law and constitutional issues, we provide the specifics, the citations, the statutory instruments them that we talk about. We provide the constitutional citations them in terms of the sections and subsections and the parts and whatever else not. We provide the preamble information. We deal with the schedules. We deal with all the different things them. So they're not like they don't know what they talk about, or they can't find out or figure out what they talk about. Then just don't give a damn. Bottom line, and that is what frustrates me because they should give a damn. Just like how the people took it upon themselves to at least get out and bed and go and vote for getting a chance, following the procedures for them to become elected. Of course, we never have a right to vote, so all them votes that was cast could be constituted under for their perspective as being illegal votes. Or for all intents and purpose, the election is a fraud. I mean, if you take the extreme to which these guys are actually verbalizing things when they square with the Constitution, we all look like some bunch of fools. And I refuse to sit by and just pretend that that is all right. So I just hope
It's
that I
not,
don't lose my friendship with Mr. Dickey over this matter because
Oh no,
over this
he's
one matter,
larger than that.
we have
He's
discussed
larger than that.
other
Yeah,
matters before, and we have still remained
yeah.
friends. So I hope that we
He's,
I
can
will
remain
say
friends
this though. I will say
on
this.
this particular issue out.
There is no respect from past and present government for a constitution that is working just fine. If you don't need fix, why fix it instead of strengthening it as the Bahamas did? Because you know what I find is happening in Belize and with this present government? The discrimination of black people. Honestly, and it shows. How dare you channels the ruling of a judge and is willing to appeal it in favor of the cane farmers when you hung the Stevie Dawes out to dry, who had a ruling by a tribunal, and you who has the authorities to make law and carry out law did not hold the Ashcroft regime responsible to pay these young men. Double
No,
standard. Double
no,
standard.
very much so. What I would like to say about that particular issue with the cane farmers thing, the government is within its rights to go to bat on behalf of its people. I don't see a problem with that. You know, because that's what you have. What you call it? Appellate courts for. And even after the appellate court, if they win or lose, they could still go to the Caribbean court. If they win or lose, that's what will make the difference then. Because after that, they're not got nowhere else to go. So I don't have a problem with them just going through the motions.
But
they're so
my
arrogant.
cousin,
My
cousin, hold on. Let me stop you right there. Because, yes, I want you to, because I don't want you to become senile. But they are using Section 2, just as you mentioned. You know, in Section 3 to 19, which is protected by Section 20, if the government takes away your property, they must give you redress. Here we find in this case, the government does not want to take away property, but it wants to take away money from this private company to pay these cane farmers.
Well, wait, because I want to explain something that happened there, right? I don't know, or I don't care whether I win, lose, or draw the case going forward at the different higher levels.
But you understand what I'm saying, right?
I don't want to miss the point.
Loud and clear, yeah.
My point at least is that they're going to go back on behalf of the cane farmers against one company where they try rip off, not a try, I shouldn't even say try. They could say they're liable them or accuse them of stealing. Basically, that's my intent. Why I'm making this statement, because I know where gongs are the pan, as usual, like I say. Anytime I come out hard and strong and, you know, for something, that because I know that I have the legs to stand up, regardless of how it come out of me. These people at that sugar factory, long before BSI came into existence, when, not BSI, ASR, long before ASR got involved with BSI, right? BSI was doing the same thing that ASR come now and they do on a bigger scale. They're taking chance with people in the north. I could tell you that because I was involved in that part of that stuff, in the cane business up there. I know where to talk about. I know to talk off the top of my head. Then they rip off people. Then they claim that they have more expense than what they have. Then they take more money so that they could show that to the foreign investors who help them with investment in a company. They have to give them a certain percentage to make them look and feel good about the investment. And then they stiff the cane farmers then. Right, left, and center. The money where they can get for the cane from abroad when they sell the sugar should be split correctly and honestly between the cane farmers who should get their fair due and the company who owns the machinery and control and maintain the machinery and do everything else that needs to be done on behalf of the cane farmers, them grinding the cane and sending it abroad. I don't have a problem with that when it's done legally, ethically, morally, and just this. I have a problem when they treat it with a malicious and malignant attitude, and then take advantage just because they go take advantage. That is my problem.
No. That comes back to the same thing.
That's not what the case is, though, right? I'm just expressing my own.
It comes back to the government who is supposed to be involved and make sure the right policies are put in place. Because we are talking about, likewise, the definitive agreement, which is taking advantage.
Again?
Look again at the 77 million US loan. Look at it.
Look at the money.
We have to consult them.
We're gonna pay Ashcroft. Even though we know we owe Ashcroft the money, then pressure the teachers, them, and the teachers, their family, and the rest of the economy to scrape out that 78 million. And that,
at the end of the day, what I'm saying, I am saying
the guys then devious, man.
use the right policy and get it right so we don't go down this lane. I am not with no company who wants to take away from our Belizean people, regardless of color, race, or creed.
Mhm.
The government is the one who should
Empowered.
have oversight, and they're
Exactly.
not doing that because they are favoring certain people. You don't make bad policies that wants to demand. If you are willing to do that, then you should have did that from the definitive agreement and not giving up so much concession, because you're hurting some people while you are favoriting other people. Good policies will be good for Belizean. I said this before. I might not like Donald Trump's way of ruling when he was president, but I love his method. America is for Americans. Why Belizean cannot be for Belizean? Let's get rid of the shenanigans and do the right thing. You know?
The answer to that question though is about money. Money speaks in Belize. Okay. And people will suborn a whole government so they could get finally piece of that money.
So
Anyhow,
Go
rightful
ahead,
on that,
Mr.
man.
Wade.
Anyway, on my
gone.
on my closing, I want to thank you guys. For another, we bring another educational edition to the Belizean people, and I just hope that they listen and take heed. And rightfully says what we want would like this government to do is to come clean, right, and do what they want to do and get it over with, instead of taking the country and people through what they're taking them through, which is not, it's not good, right? So on that note, I want to say good night and
Night,
thanks
everybody.
to
Good night,
our
Greg. Thank you
viewers
very much.
and listeners,
Great show,
both at
man.
home and abroad.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Will.
guys.
You guys gonna hold for a second or something?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I will hold for a second.
Okay.